These athletes didn't just play for the win, they played for the mirror. Welcome to the Selfish Hall of Fame, where teamwork's a myth, egos are bigger than contracts, and pass the ball sounds like a personal insult. As always, we're going to start off with our honorable mentions in no particular order. Dennis Rodman kicks off our honorable mentions because he somehow managed to make rebounding about himself. His own daughter called him an extremely selfish human being, which is basically the ultimate family review. This is a guy who married himself in a wedding dress and thought befriending North Korean dictators was good for team chemistry. He refused to leave the court after being ejected and headbutted teammates during games. Now imagine being so self-absorbed that you make basketball about your hair color and your friendship with authoritarian leaders. Crazy. Cam Newton turned touchdown celebrations into his personal Broadway productions. His dabbing became so obnoxious that parents were writing angry letters to newspapers. And that takes talent. But his real masterpiece was the Super Bowl, where he pouted like a toddler after losing, apparently forgetting that millions of kids looked up to him. He made every first down about himself and then couldn't handle it when the spotlight wasn't flattering anymore. Nothing says team leader like sulking on the biggest stage in football. Cristiano Ronaldo turned soccer into a one-man museum dedicated to himself. Even Real Madrid fans have booed him in the past for refusing to pass to wide-open teammates. Imagine being so selfish that your own supporters get fed up with your ego. He's criticized teammates publicly after losses and bragged about not needing good relationships with teammates to win. The man has turned Sue into a personal brand while forgetting that soccer requires 10 other people on the field. Conor McGregor has made trash talking into a mental health concern. This guy punched an old man in a bar. Now what fight was he selling there? Has managed to turn MMA into his personal therapy sessions while working out daddy issues on national television while pretending it's all marketing genius. He's threatened opponents with actual murder and somehow convinced people this was just selling the fights. There's confident, and then there's whatever psychological diagnosis McGregor needs. I mean, really, maybe it'll help him put down the whiskey and get back to training instead of making a public spectacle of himself all the time. Kylian Mbappe deserves a special shout out for turning soccer into a personal highlight reel. This guy has been called the most selfish player in the world by actual data analysts, and that's saying something in a sport where diving is considered an art form. He refused to take team photos with France, sued his former club PSG for moral harassment over $61 million, and apparently thinks passing the ball is a suggestion. Even his own teammates got fed up with him ignoring wide open shots to teammates just so he could attempt impossible goals himself. But hey, at least he looks good doing it. Then Antonio Brown, where do we even start? This man turned quitting into a performance art. He literally stripped off his jersey and walked off the field in the middle of the game, leaving his teammates to figure out what just happened. His own brother called him selfish, which tells you everything you need to know about family dinners. Tom Brady even texted him, "You're acting selfish." And when Tom thinks you're being selfish, you've officially reached peak selfishness. Lance Armstrong rounds out our honorable mentions because nothing says team player like lying to the entire world for over a decade while destroying the careers of anyone who dared to tell the truth. He didn't just cheat, he systematically ruined people's lives to protect his own image. He's basically the reason we can't have nice things in cycling anymore. Now that we've covered the warm-up acts, let's get to the real show. These athletes didn't just put themselves first, they completely forgot other people existed. Floyd Mayweather Jr. kicks us off because he's managed to make boxing boring, which should be impossible. The entire boxing world was begging him to fight Manny Pacquiao. And instead of giving fans what they wanted, he set on his undefeated record like a dragon guarding gold. He could have saved boxing, but apparently his precious zero was more important than the entire sport. And to me, that's not a strategy. It's selfishness disguised as business savvy. Now, this kind of me-first mentality seems to infect certain positions more than others. And nowhere is more obvious than with wide receivers in football. Keyshawn Johnson literally wrote the book called Just Give Me the Damn Ball. And somehow that wasn't his most selfish moment. His nickname was Meeshawn, which tells you just about everything you need to know about how his teammates felt about sharing the field with him. He never understood that football requires 11 people, not one guy and 10 accessories. Speaking of athletes who forgot math, Alex Rodriguez saw a $252 million contract and thought, this seems reasonable. Never mind that this single contract would cripple his team's ability to sign anyone else decent. His own grandfather climbed telephone poles for a living, but apparently A-Rod needed that extra $100 million because you can't survive on a measly $150 million. The man single-handedly proved that there's a difference between wanting to get paid and wanting to destroy your team's future. Randy Moss continued the proud tradition of wide receiver selfishness by literally walking off the field while his team still had a chance to win games. Imagine being so focused on your stats that you'd rather pout on the sidelines than help your teammates. He wanted his catches, he wanted his touchdowns, and if the team happened to win along the way, well, that was just a nice bonus. But selfishness isn't limited to team sports. Tiger Woods had everything: talent, money, and a supermodel wife, and apparently decided that it wasn't nearly enough. One Swedish supermodel wasn't sufficient enough for Tiger's appetite, so he decided to collect affairs like golf trophies. Nothing says thinking of others like systematically lying to your wife while she's at home taking care of your kids. And of course, no discussion of athletic selfishness wouldn't be complete without the Terrell Owens, who turned being a teammate into a one-man reality show. Whether he was doing sit-ups in his driveway during a meteor circus, trashing coaches publicly, or demanding trades while actively hurting his team's chances, T.O. somehow made everything about himself. And then the man eventually got his own reality TV show, which is basically the athletic equivalent to building a shrine of yourself. Then there's Barry Bonds, who managed to make baseball fans hate home runs. This guy had 0 friends in any clubhouse he ever entered, which is actually impressive when you think about it. Bonds reportedly wouldn't mentor teammates because he was afraid they might use his knowledge against him in free agency. But his true masterpiece of selfishness was the steroid era. He didn't just cheat, he obliterated records. He obliterated beloved records held by beloved players while systematically destroying anyone who questioned him. He turned America's pastime into a chemistry experiment, and also his ego could feel better about itself. Kobe Bryant presents an interesting case because he actually won championships, but dear God, did he make everyone miserable along the way. He ran Shaq out of Los Angeles during his prime, but perhaps his most selfish moment was when he refused to shoot in a playoff game just to prove his point to his teammates. He tanked an entire playoff game to demonstrate how much his team needed him. That's not basketball, my friends, that's psychological warfare. Brett Favre mastered the art of making retirement about himself. The man signed a 2-year deal with Minnesota, played well his first year, and then just left. No consideration for his teammates who were counting on him. No thought about the organization that had planned around him. He turned will he or will he not retire into his own personal soap opera, appearing at least 3 seasons past his expiration date. His teammates needed stability, but Brett needed attention more. And finally, we reached the peak of athletic selfishness with LeBron James. And the decision. Picture this, you're from a city that hasn't won a championship in decades, a place that genuinely needs something to believe in. The entire economy of Cleveland was basically built around hoping you'd stay. So naturally, LeBron decided to announce his departure on a nationally televised special, crushing an entire city's dream for entertainment value. You see, the problem with the decision wasn't actually the decision itself. He could have stayed and been a hero, or he could have left quietly and been respected. Instead, he chose to rip out Cleveland's heart on live television just so he could hang out with his friends in Miami. This man turned leaving his hometown into a primetime television special, apparently forgetting that real people with real emotions were watching. The level of tone-deaf selfishness is almost artistic in its cruelty. But that's just about all I got, guys. If I missed anybody, let me know in the comment section, Peanut Gallery. And as always, make sure you run on your toes, keep your mouth closed, lock your doors, and save your throws. And most importantly, you live to fight another day. I'm going to get out of here, guys.